I honestly was maybe just going to stare at the camera um, for 10 minutes, just frowning. And that would have conveyed my thoughts on this episode finale of Game of Thrones. But no, I'm not going to do that. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk out the pain and the feeling. That's what we're going to do. So we knew this series had taken a nosedive, and it has steadily been taking a nosedive this entire season because they are rushing through it, and the writing just became horrible and atrocious and don't give a fuck, bluntly. And this episode, oh my God, it was an hour and 22 minutes long. So I guess you could consider it a extended episode for some reason. And that extended part was the slow motion walking that seemed to make up half of the runtime. I'm not going to lie. I posted this on Facebook in response to a friend of mine, asking about it. And at one point during the scene where Jon was walking up the stairs to see Daenerys, we flipped the channel accidentally, and I had a remote that didn't let us go right back. So we had to go through the screen guide, and it took a full minute to get back to HBO. And honest to God, Jon still hadn't made it up the stairs. It was like camping in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. It never ended. So all the walking happened in this episode. God, man, I actually took some time. I took like a half an hour, 45 minutes to think about what I was going to say about this. And it's still, I'm just in awe of how bad Game of Thrones ended. And the fact that so many of the theories, the bad theories, the theories that you didn't want to be true, were true. And at the end of the day, what happened was, I suppose this is supposed to be some sort of lesson to be learned from the show, but in the end of the day, I'm looking at it like I'm here for the story and the journey. And what we got from this was there was no journey, really. Everyone ended up with no arc. Jon Snow was useless. I guess his one thing was to kill Daenerys, which we knew was going to happen, but he really was pointless. He was, this whole thing about the prince who was supposed to come and all that bullshit really wasn't true. Bran Stark is the king who he's one of the most lazy. I know I get that the kid can't walk, whatever, but he's a warger. He should be able to help out, but he did dick all. But he is the most useless character and most selfish character since Grandpa Joe in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. For real. And he gets to be king. Jon ends up right back where he started, so there was really no use of him at all. Arya's off being a pirate, and good for her, I guess. She could have stuck around and be a protector of the king or something, but instead she's off being a pirate. Whatevs, that's great. Sansa is also, her story arc, everybody's like, oh, you go queen. Yes, girl. Yes, you became queen of the North. Her brother is the king of the realm. And she still decides that, the North is going to still remain independent because reasons. And she gets to be her, to me, this whole thing with her and Tyrion, this whole storyline that could have played out in a way that made sense, it's, I just, she came off as a smug, self-serving bitch too. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess you won, and then we're supposed to, I guess, feel sad about Daenerys, even though she was a psycho. They turned her into a psycho really quickly, and yet Jon was still tormented by what he had to do in the end. I don't get that. I don't get Jon Snow being hesitant on taking her out after seeing all the things that she had done and her attitude and knowing what was going on. I don't get it. I don't get that. And it made him just look like an idiot, him and Tyrion. But Jon, oh my God, this was just ridiculous. This was just not in character and ridiculous. This is a man who knew right from right. And I don't understand. And hearing her lines about, well, they don't, we know better. We know more, just makes no sense. That would be okay with him. And he even had any type of hesitation. So really, Jon Snow was worthless and pointless, and anybody could have done what he did. Anybody really could have done what he did. The outcome of all of this just feels so pointless. And I don't know if that's the emo, downer, realistic, ending that, R.R.R. Martin and company, D&D, I guess, whatever they, the guys that are now going to go and get a hold of Star Wars after this, wanted. I guess this is supposed to be the realistic ending, but this isn't even realistic. Tyrion was one of the smartest characters in the show. He now, oh look, he's back to being the hand of the king where he's supposed to be. But there was no arc there. He got defeated. He let himself be. There was no Tyrion playing the game. Tyrion got played, and that is something that I'm amazed by. That people are okay with that. Tyrion's the smart one. Tyrion honestly should be on the throne. I know I'm he, or the hand, I guess he's the hand now. Wouldn't be the legs of the new king. But it felt wrong. Tyrion is supposed to be the smartest one in the show, and Tyrion got played, and it just, you defeated him. He was defeated. He was beaten down. And even with talking to Jon still was so whipped by Daenerys, anti-whipped. I don't know what you would call that. But it made no sense. You saw what happened. You saw what she did. You heard her. Grey Worm is out there cutting throats of men who have surrendered, and you're okay with this, apparently. And I don't get it. So that entire thing, Jon Snow was useless. I guess we're supposed to take from the emo, defeated George R.R. Martin school of thought that the hero of the tale isn't really the hero, I guess. So that ending, everybody's like, oh, Jon's back where he was supposed to be. Well, he never really went anywhere, if you want to get technical about it. I mean, the same with Jaime. Jaime had no arc. That's really why I'm pissed about that whole Brienne scene. Because Brienne is all about honor. and duty. And um, Jaime didn't really do that. Jaime didn't have honor. Jaime didn't do his duty. Jaime didn't deserve to have that completed page, and especially with as much thought and care that she put in it. Giving him sort of a secretly okay ending, and I just that's not what happened. And sorry, I had to do a text back emergency. But that was not what happened. And I really don't like that they made her be okay enough with him to do that for him. I guess he did make her a knight, but he lied, and he I didn't like it. It's not okay. It's not okay. Jaime was an asshole, and he admitted he was an asshole. But the worst part of it was he didn't just, we didn't get that arc for him that should have been there because of this horrible writing. The same with Jon Snow. Jon Snow ended up being a complete pointless use of a character. And that whole scene where Tyrion somehow climbs in, gets to where Cersei and Jaime are, and they're laying there dead. And Jaime and his super long arm is like over her somehow. Look at it. It looks freakishly long. We're supposed to be sad that those two jerks are dead? Is that supposed to be sad? I don't understand, because Cersei was a complete psycho bitch asshole, and Jaime turned out to be an asshole too. Am I supposed to cry about that? I didn't feel any emotion there. Honestly, I didn't feel hardly any emotion at all during the entire episode, because it was so jarringly off and bad. The thing that the two instances where I felt emotion and I felt something here was Drogon nudging Dany's body and carrying her away after destroying the throne. That was a beautifully done scene. And oh, by the way, props to the cinematographer who captured that shot of Dany standing there with the dragon wings behind her. That was really well done, and very much like the shot that Tim Burton looked into. I'm going to assume it was planned, but who knows with this show, with how badly everything else was. But I got to give props to the cinematography. So this probably was planned. It very much like the scene in Sleepy Hollow that Tim Burton captured by accident, as he admits on the DVD, of Christopher Lee leaning over and the wings of justice behind him. But that shot was beautifully done. Well done. Too bad we didn't get more of that. But that shot, the scene of Drogon nudging Dany and carrying her away, beautifully done. He just carries her away. My joke was he took a snack with him on his journey to wherever he was going to wind up. But because, nothing came of that. Because nothing came of anything, really, in this show. I mean, I guess, stab, Dany done, went out real easy. My thing is, I come back to this, and I've said this many times in a lot of these gabbing about GOTS that I've done. And that is, we were denied a shot of Jon Snow proving his Targaryen heritage by surviving a shot of dragon flame to himself. There was a perfect moment for that. There was also a perfect moment if, for some reason, Tyrion Lannister has the longest times between his imprisonment and execution being carried out, that we could have had a really cool scene of Daenerys, realizing that Tyrion was a Targaryen half-breed, which was always rumored because he was so different from his family members, um, that, he could have been set up to get fried just like Varys, and we could have seen that happen, and see him survive the dragon blast, and Dany realizing, oh shit, and Jon also realizing, oh shit, that Tyrion is actually the oldest living Targaryen. He would have been the one to be on the throne. Makes sense, right? I think so. I think that would make sense. That would have been cool. That would have been a neat way to have a twist at the end. But no, that didn't happen either. Instead, we've got what everybody knew was going to happen with Jon stabbing Dany. Nothing really coming of that, because we somehow jump forward in time and suddenly everybody's doing a group discussion. And by the way, Lord Breastfeed is there. That kid lived. No one killed that kid. Ugh. Anyway, Lord Breastfeed was there, and the rest of them. And for some reason, I guess because, Brienne makes sense because there's no one left in Target. Dany killed everybody. So these are your leftover lords and ladies that are going to be on the panel of judges. American Idol, Westeros. Um, so I don't know, man. In the end, Bran is king for some reason. They shoved that whole thing in about stories. Well, you didn't have. That's the irony here, is that the writing was so shit that they relied on this. Oh, we're all the stories of the realm are the important parts, and that's who, the history and the stories, and he's made of stories now. And I guess because he's made of stories from within this show, that's why he's so boring and lifeless now, because he's made from the stories written for this show. And then they the Song of Ice and Fire title of Sam's book. Really? You went there. It's where you went with it. At the end of the day, this episode could have been 30 minutes long if you cut out the walking. I don't know why we had these extended episodes. They didn't really do anything with that time. They sure as hell didn't work on the story. There was no story here. So yeah, it's over. I stayed through the bitter end of this show. The other part that made me feel something right here, which I think is one part of the episode that a lot of people feel the same way about, is seeing Ghost and Jon reunited, and Ghost with his one ear missing. But at least Bronn got his fucking castle. So that's great. I was happy to see Bronn live to the end. Bronn got what he was deserved, because you know what? Bronn was consistent. Out of all of these characters, Bronn's story and Bronn himself was the most consistent in terms of character. And I love that he made it. Tormund too. Tormund was consistent. Brienne was consistent too. They made it. But the thing that felt jarringly weird, as well, and as I said, this episode was just, not only was it so badly paced and so poorly written, it was uneven in tone on top of everything else. I'm not even going to go into that weird ending. Oh look, the three of them have their different places and they're walking, and of the Stark kids. Um, the tonal shift from that emo direness and the darkness. It's like, you guys realize that thousands of people are dead thanks to Daenerys Targaryen in this city. A lot of people are dead, and you are making it was such a dark, stark, pun intended, um, episode and story for so long, and then you're gonna wind it up at the end with like this jokey, odd tonal shift of, bronze wacky cabinet members. And then you have also at that whole meeting place, you had the whole laughing at democracy thing going on, which, the common people, no one gives two shits about them. And I guess we're supposed to take away from that no one really did give two shits about those people. Your great, lords of the realm that you've got here that have survived apparently give no shits about people that aren't lords and ladies of the realm. So is that supposed to change? Are we going to go back to business as usual? Yeah. So the tonal shifts and the story, it was horrible. I honest to God, I have never seen a show go down in flames, also no pun intended there, so quickly and so brutally as a show like this did. And I know there's people out there defending it. And you know what? Like what you like. If you liked it, good for you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this episode and you enjoyed the end of the series and you were okay with what it did, great. I'm happy for you. But there are a lot of people that aren't happy, and they have a right to not be happy about it. They gave 9 years, 10 years of their life to this show, spent a lot of money on it. Everybody that, I can see now HBO is probably going to have subscription drops like this. I mean, I spent money on it. I'm wearing a Targaryen t-shirt that I've had for a while now. And it just, man, it was so rushed and butchered. And it all happened in like the span of a season. This happened, and I've seen the videos of cast members talking about how they hated it. They weren't happy with it. You can tell they weren't happy with it. I've seen Emilia Clarke talk about when someone asked her on a red carpet about it, you can tell she's not happy with it. And they'll have to say, "Oh, it's so good. We don't touch it," because they're under contract, but you can tell. So Game of Thrones has really ended, sadly, as badly as we were afraid it would, at least to me and a lot of other people. And as I said, you like what you like. If you were happy with it, go you. I'm glad you were happy. I'm glad you had your closure that you wanted. I'm glad your characters went out or lived the way you wanted them to. Good for you. But I'm not happy with it. I'm disappointed. I thought it was poorly done at the end, and it's disappointing. There were moments that were good, as I've said, but this finale just was bad. I wish this giant thing Diet Dr. Pepper that I have in my hand was half whiskey. That's how bad it was. But unfortunately, I don't have booze. Wish I did. Would have probably helped me get through this a little bit better. Because, as my pen here says, because I spent a lot of money on Game of Thrones, I drink and I know things. Well, not drinking right now, but I do know some things, and the things I know aren't good. And Yeah, so if you liked it, I'm happy for you. I really am. Good for you. I've liked things that other people hated, like this guy back here. A lot of people hated him. I love him to death. I would take a bullet for Peter Capaldi. I like Negan. A lot of people hate Negan. I love Negan. Um, but yeah, I sad to say, Game of Thrones went down as poorly as we expected, and I'm bummed about that. I think these characters and these actors deserve better. I think the fans deserve better. If your thing is creating an emo, tortured, brutally realistic fantasy, how is that a fantasy? Also, why change a journey so drastically and backpedal on a journey that could have been one of the greatest arcs in the last 10 years, five, while on television. It could have been a great story. Jamie Lannister, I'm still bitter and jaded and pissed off about it. You could have made that a fantastic story arc for that character. But no. And the fact that Brienne of Tarth had the, I guess, decency to write, he died defending his queen. He didn't defend her, unless you count taking a few of those bricks early, but a little jaded. Hi, Georgina. How are you? Welcome to my bitch fest of Game of Thrones. But yeah, so Game of Thrones ended sadly the way we didn't want it to, and I'm sad about that. At least Drogon lived. At least Ghost lived. We have a number of characters that I really like that made it. But in the end, a lot of our characters backpedaled and didn't go anywhere. After 9 years, 10 years, a decade that we've been with this show, the characters didn't go anywhere at all. And that's sad. So that's where I'm at with it. And that's Game of Thrones in a nutshell, I guess. I guess we're supposed to be this is the alternate hero's journey where the hero doesn't really go anywhere. Do you think the books will end like this? I don't know if the books will ever get finished. George Martin seems to be saying that 6 and 7? He's saying they're not nowhere near done. He may just decide, I'm done with it. They're sullied my legacy. I don't know. I hope that George Martin would do something different than this, but I guess we'll see. I don't know. So yeah, I hope the books are better, but at this point, it's kind of like how I felt with the last Airbender movie. I feel like the last Airbender movie, I saw it before I ever decided to watch the anime, which was a bad choice. Don't do that. If you haven't watched the last Airbender anime and have the opportunity to see the live action movie first, decide not to watch the live action movie. It's not, just don't do that. Georgina, I agree. I think a lot of people are disappointed. A lot of people. It should have went out a lot differently. And I feel like there was a lot of wasted opportunity. They had basically a movie each week of time that they could have done, and instead it felt like a lot of filler because they didn't really know what to do, and then at the end they just rushed everything, even though they had basically an hour and a half every week to do something. a complete hour and a half, like a feature length runtime per episode. And this is what we got. They wasted so much time that in the last episode, they had to skip time. Think about that. They had to do a time jump after basically having, 6 or 7 or more feature films of time that they could have done. How does that happen? How does that happen? Really? For real? How? Because you want more slow motion walking? I don't know. I don't know how it happened. So yeah, with that, that's my rant. I mean, I really can't say anything else about it. I'm very disappointed. Georgina's very disappointed. So I think a lot of people are. But as I said, if you liked it, good for you. I'm happy for you. I'm glad you got your closure and what you wanted. That's fantastic. As a fan, I get it when you enjoy something and you love it. But as a fan too, when you're disappointed by something this badly and with this much just crash and burn happening, it hurts. It sucks. You've invested time and you're part of your life and part of your money into something, and kind of blows when it's this bad. If you can't tell, I like books. I forgot to shut that. So you get to see the giant library of books that are hidden in that closet back there in my office. And yeah, so I have a lot of the novels. They're bricks. They're like this thick. Yeah, there are many unresolved things. There are a lot of things that they tied up too quickly with no reason behind them. So yeah, it kind of sucks. So for me and a lot of people, you're going to have to deal with a lot of butthurt people. It's just going to happen. Apparently there's like 1 million plus signatures on that petition, which, guys, we know I haven't even signed it, but I understand doing something like that to make a point. Because I think they want people to know it's, the point of that petition. They know that HBO is not going to go back and refilm this. Come on, we know better. The point of it is to say that people don't like the things they love like this to be ruined by just deciding to cash grab, quick turnaround, rushing. And that's what this turned into, I guess. I'm not sure why it was so rushed. This was a money-making machine for HBO. Not just the show and the subscriptions and all of that, but the merchandising that they did. And yeah, I mean, there's so many things left unresolved, and there's like all of these Georgina's listing off like all of these prophecies and things like that, and that just went nowhere. Stupid shit, basically, that went nowhere. No, we're gonna just throw some crap. See, this role, I am feeling so much of the Lost vibe from this thing. It almost feels like Lindelof kind of like crept off of the set of the Watchmen series to come jack with the shit from Game of Thrones and do his thing over here. It's like, here, we're just going to throw some things in there that are never going to go anywhere. And look over here. Oh, we tricked you out. No, this is really what we were talking about. But this is really not going to go anywhere either. Oh, they were dead the whole time. Which we knew from the first episode of Lost. Spoilers. So yeah, that, yeah. So Game of Thrones ends with many things left unresolved, lots of slow motion walking. I didn't even stay to see. Did they do some? I was so glad it was over. I'm like, God, thank God we're done. I don't have to, be, tortured like this again for every Sunday. I don't even know if there was like an after credit sequence or something where they showed What I was expecting, I would have been okay. You know what? At least something would have happened rather than Drogon flying off with his snack. Um, is have him land and Daenerys's eyes open blue and like the whole Night Queen thing. Something happen. I what the like really why? Why? So yeah, that's where I'm at with it. I think a lot of people are at the same place. Sorry this rant has gone on a long time. It's just a lot of venting here. As I said, share your pain. Hopefully I think I haven't missed anything. I'm trying to think in regards to this episode. Man, it just yeah. There was no Azor Ahai, the thing with Arya, the green eyes. I mean, was this them setting up the spin-offs? Because I'm telling you, I don't know that the spin-offs are going to get that much traction. Sort of like, and I've mentioned this before, Walking Dead. The Walking Dead pissed all over a lot of fans with some of the things that it was done. And it is now wanting to do another spin-off, and no one has asked for that secondary spin-off. Plus they're wanting to do movies. We've already had one spinoff die on the vine for Game of Thrones. And now they're talking about doing, that was the prequel series, I think. But now they're talking about doing a couple more spinoffs of this. And with how this show has gone, with this last episode, do you want spinoffs? And if you got them, what would you want them to be about? My dogs are pissed off even. So, yeah, would you, let me know. You know what? Tell me. Tell me in the chat. Tell me in the comments. Are you going to tune into the Game of Thrones spinoffs if these actually happen? If it actually gets put on HBO, are you going to bother watching them? Are you going to bother finishing the books at this point? If they ever get new ones, if George R. Martin gets his shit together and actually gets them finished, are you going to read them? I'm curious to see what you would say, because I'm guessing that this series has probably tainted a lot of your thoughts on this show, or I'm sorry, on the books. And I think you're probably going to have a hard time differentiating between what you've now witnessed with the show and the characters themselves and what the books are going to tell you they are. Because a lot of this is so ingrained in you now, it's probably going to be really hard to differentiate. And I know, like I said, the whole thing with watching the horrible live action Airbender movie tainted me for watching the anime. I still have to watch it. I know everybody out there loves it, and it's considered a great one, one of the greatest animes of all time. But because it was so bad, I didn't want to watch it, because I can't. I'm having a hard time because it was so bad. Pulling that away. I'll eventually watch it. I know I will. But that's the issue with this. I'm curious to see what you think. If this show's tainted you for finishing the books or even starting them. Does it make you want to read them, hoping that there may be something better here? Because the books are a lot better than the show. I'll tell you that right now with the way things have gone. They're very dense. They're bricks. You could build a house with them. But I'm curious to what you thought. I mean, this show, like I said, this show is the quickest, most brutal nosedive I've ever witnessed in a TV series. So that's my final thoughts on Game of Thrones. What do you think? Let me know. So, go over here and comment. Let me know what you thought. Subscribe, because I will be starting another series. I will actually be doing a video this week for Nosferatu, giving you my thoughts on that. I'm finally unembargoed on that. I've watched the first 5 or 6 episodes of that show, and that's another one that's a book first and then became a series. And I'm not too thrilled with what they've done, a lot of it, with the show. They made a lot of changes, and not all of them good. But yeah, also Good Omens, which is good. I'll be able to talk about that soonish. So with that, guys, thank you so much. Oh, hey, what'd you say here? I think mini stories were closed in a way that there is not a way to fix them with the spinoff. No, there's not. There's really not. I would like to, I would have been okay with the Tormund and Ghost Adventures. That would have been fun. But yeah, I'm with you there, Georgina. There's really no way to fix what they broke with this, with the spinoffs, whatever the spinoffs would be. If it's Arya, the series of her, I honestly was expecting her and Yara to end up a couple and be pirates together, which would have been okay. What else? That would have been fine. But Yara just shows up to somehow be stupidly still obedient to Dany after all the shit she did. Great. You go, Yara. What a waste of a character. Man. And I'm still in awe that Prince or Lord Breastfeed was there and he's not dead. I almost kind of wanted him to be the king. That was somebody who brought that up, that he would have been the new king after everybody was killed by Daenerys, and he'd be the only one left alive. Oh boy. So yeah, I guess him and Tormund could compare milk stories. God. Yeah. So Game of Thrones. There we go. I see I got a couple of viewers. Hi guys. If you have any thoughts, please, questions, comments, let me know. But I hope you enjoyed this kind of ranty, insane, angry video that I've done. I'm gonna jump off here. Thank you guys so much for joining and being a part of the Gabbing About Gods. It's over. The gabbing has ended for the Game of Thrones. We will gab about other things, though. Much nicer things. Things that have stories that make sense. So with that, guys, thank you so much again. And please subscribe, leave some comments, let us know what you thought, what you would like to see more about on this channel. I hopefully will be getting some really interesting interviews soon. So Fangirl Radio will actually be returning soonish. I promise. Life, the universe, and everything has come into play. But if you want to hear me talk to Kit Harington, Jon Snow himself, we do actually have an interview with him from a couple of years ago when he did the Silent Hill movie. And we got to talk to him and his co-star from that. So if you go on to iTunes, you can find that under Fangirl Radio, and subscribe and listen to the backlog of episodes, because we've had some really interesting peeps on there, including Greg Nicotero, Norman Reedus. We had Vincent D'Onofrio for a horror musical that he wrote and directed that you may not have known about. We've had Benedict Cumberbatch, a lot of Doctor Who peeps. So definitely check it out. Fangirl Radio on iTunes, also on SoundCloud, so you can hear it on there as well. We got a couple of the audio dramas on this channel here on YouTube that you can listen to that we did for Halloween that actually had Greg Nicotero in them, Doug Jones, our buddy Mark Meir. So yeah, check them out and let us know what you thought about this below, and subscribe. So again, thank you for being on this journey with us through the world of Westeros. Where we ended up, not that far from where we started, sadly. But thank you guys again, and good night. from gabbing about God.